I'm Ólafur Arnalds and I'm going to show you a little bit around my stage setup. So this is my main station on stage where I got the grand piano, which we travel with actually, and some synthesizers, some echoes, and just a MIDI keyboard for like general purpose, you know, both for some soft synths and also for the Stratus pianos. I also have 4 string players on stage and a drummer, and the drummer is also playing a couple of synths as well, and has his own Ableton session running over there, and I got my Ableton session running over here. His session is actually not on the time code, it's just like for loading samples and stuff like that. Any click or anything like that is running from this one. So yeah, this is the master. And I've just got different scenes, you know, for each song, which load not only, you know, the tempo and whatever playbacks there might be. There's actually not a lot of playback in the show, but there's some bits, but also loads any like effect settings. So like the Juno and stuff has different EQ for each track, so you know we can more easily fit it into the mix. There's 2 self-playing pianos from Yamaha, Disklaviers they're called, and they are both plugged by MIDI to here, to my little rig here, and then we've built this sensor bar. It's custom made by my friend named Benjamin Maus, which basically it has optical sensors, and it just sees when I press a key. Moog made a similar device like 20 years ago, which actually never really worked. So we decided to build our own. That has a little control box here. It's called Piano Sense. That's the name we came up for it. So that turns these keys on the grand piano into MIDI, which goes into Ableton, where I've loaded up a VST that we built ourselves, which we call Stratus. I built this with an Icelandic fellow named Halldór Eldjárn. He's a musician and he's also a programmer, so he knows about both worlds, and he helped me create this semi-generative MIDI manipulator, I guess you would call it. Basically how it works is when I press a note here, it sends that into the Stratus VST, and I've sequenced a rhythm for each note that I press. There's 8 sequencer, and each sequencer is completely individual from the others. So you can have different time signatures or anything within the different ones, and that's why when you press several keys, like here if I press like 4 keys, you will hear a scramble of notes because they're all in different time signatures and different tempos. You may actually not hear that in the camera. Let me put on something louder. And that's pretty much it. Sometimes I use the keyboard to trigger it. Like here. Yeah, at this point it's really straightforward and relatively simple, but just kind of building it was not. It took a couple of years to get this concept down. It has a lot of random functions to make it feel more alive. Like when I press a chord like that, you'll notice that some of the notes are transposing up octaves and down octaves to make it somehow feel like someone is randomly adding little melodies to it. Yeah, they're tuned twice a day. Because they're moved around on a truck that drives behind us, so you know, when they get to a new location, they've been going over, especially here in the UK, it's quite bumpy roads, so they'll usually be detuned quite a lot by the time we arrive. So usually we rely on local tuners to So they tune them first thing in the morning, and then we do the sound check and stuff, and the pianos get climatized and to the venue, and then after sound check they do like the final tuning for the show. But it's a bit of a challenge because they all need to match each other, especially those two, because they're playing like one instrument. They're not playing a solo here and then a solo there. They're always playing together and usually playing kind of the same patterns. So they need to be so close in tuning that they sound like one piano, just in stereo. The Juno I've been using on all my records for 10 years now. It's my go-to thing in the studio and kind of just a given to take it on the road too. I use it in all the songs with Kiasmos as well. I've got a mod in it which does quite a lot, so I can do more unison stuff and like portamento and stuff like that, which isn't on the original. And also it added MIDI to it. So very often I'm just sending MIDI notes into it and I'm just playing with the filters and stuff like that. Yeah, why? It's just the best sounding synth ever made, and most straightforward as well. Like you just turn it on and you get a good sound. You don't need to patch a bunch of things. It's just out of the box. It sounds good, and it fits. It's very alive and fits very well with piano and strings and stuff. It's easy to mix it in with them. The Poly 6 is a bit more wild somehow. So that one I use more like for top melodies or more solo moments where I want things to just sound like a synth, whereas the Juno can more just blend in with natural instrument and acoustic instrument. I run them through the Space Echo, even though I have delayed channels in the computer as well, but the Space Echo is more just for, making some feedback effects and some pitch bends and stuff like that. So we actually developed this whole thing with the live show in mind. And that was a very conscious decision going into the album to actually create an album in a live setup. So I basically had this setup pretty much in the studio, and I wrote the album using this setup, and then just we had to move that on a stage. So that was quite easy in the end. I got kind of bored of trying to recreate studio things live, and I knew that I wanted to concentrate more on the live performance as opposed to always looking at the live performance as kind of inferior versions of the studio productions. I wanted to just work around the live production and look at the album as like a frozen moment in time of those songs rather than like the finished product and then we're trying to recreate it on the stage, So it was relatively easy to bring it to this, but it developed a lot, especially after, I brought in, the light designers, the stage designers, and the whole production team has helped me kind of shape how things look on stage, how we are arranged on the stage. We're not sitting like a normal string quartet, for example. The strings are kind of spread over. And conceptually, we wanted it to look a little bit like a mad playground, like all this shit lying around the stage everywhere, and I'm just in the middle with my wires connected to different ends of the stage. We send the MIDI that gets created by my Stratus software. We also send those MIDI notes to the front of house, to the light board, and programmed it in a way that the Stratus pianos can trigger little light sequences. Yeah. So that's a lot of fun, because it's generative, like nothing is sequenced in a way. You don't know, when I press this chord, I don't know exactly what is going to come out, but with this we can still synchronize the lights with it. So it's a synchronized generative light show that goes along with the pianos. It's very inspiring to sit on stage in a dark room and you play and you're also playing the lights somehow at the same time.